Right now, we're going to start with the Orioles. You've been reporting all along that the Orioles are big players in this market. You had mentioned that they had contact and discussions with Tucker. I don't know if that's still possible. They already got Ward, Alonso, Kittredge, Helsley. I mean, the Orioles are the big winners so far. What do you think about what they're doing?
John, very impressed. And it is apparent to me that the Baltimore Orioles, through ownership and their top-level management, have said, we need a better team. We are willing to spend for a better team. And I think that's one of the key things I've taken away from this. That's a significant investment in Pete Alonso. To your point, John, well above what the Mets were willing to go to sign Pete Alonso on top of the other moves they've already made. They're now not fully eclipsing the Toronto Blue Jays, but they've narrowed that gap significantly. And to your point, they're not done. While I don't necessarily expect them to get Kyle Tucker at this point, I do believe they are in there heavily on the top end of the starting pitching free agent market. So the Orioles right now, I agree, they're one of the big winners. The Mets, probably the opposite, and we'll get to them, I'm sure, more.
Probably. You're such a nice guy. Oh, my God.
So we'll get more into
I've never done a show with such a nice guy. You know, I usually do with Joel Sherman.
we'll get more into the Mets in a second.
Really nice.
But they have got, John, some work to do. And the thing I love about Pete Alonso in that ballpark, I think he is going to add so much they knew they needed, John. And we talked about this before. Right-handed power in that Baltimore lineup to balance the likes of Gunnar Henderson. And my goodness, you've now added Taylor Ward and Pete Alonso. All of a sudden, top to bottom, John, this is no stretch to say, the Baltimore Orioles now have one of the very best lineups of any team in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I think the new owner is terrific. He wants to win. David Rubenstein, he's not a poor owner. I know it's a small market. Obviously, they are willing to do stuff. I'm with you. I think they're looking at pitching, whether that be Ranger Suarez and perhaps a couple others of that ilk in that category. Michael King, Zach Gallen, maybe not Imai. I don't think they think Imai is going to go to Baltimore. Who knows? You never know. Maybe he likes crabs. I don't know.
And maybe he's paid attention to these signings. Maybe he watches our live stream on Bleacher Report and knows this is the place to be.
Yeah, I think Imai is a regular watcher, and he certainly will be now that you're part of it. This is terrific. I don't know if Baltimore's eclipsed Toronto, but I think they're a playoff team at this point. It's on the way to being a playoff team. They have terrific talent. The lineup is excellent. Gunnar Henderson did not have his type of year last year. I think he is a superstar waiting to happen. I do think Rutschman will be better. They certainly underperformed last year, and they're a young team, and now this is a big add. I'm not sure why the market doesn't love that big righty slugger. I get it. He's not great on throws, especially after we watch Vlad Guerrero Jr. My God, he can throw to any base, anytime, no matter what. I get that. He's not a great thrower, but, I mean, how many circumstances is that going to affect you during the season? He is great on scoops. Overall, defensively, maybe he's a little below average, but I think he makes up for it with 130 RBIs and 40 home runs, and I give the Orioles credit. I think they're on the right track.
Most home runs of any right-handed hitter in the game since 2019. John, he has, I believe, played underrated defense in terms of his ability to scoop. Given those two parameters, I would much rather have someone who is an expert at scooping balls out of the dirt and those aspects of fielding as opposed to throwing. And the other thing I'll say about Pete Alonso, John, for a team that was a little bit listless last year, this past season in 2025, they probably didn't have the most accountable clubhouse. They probably didn't have the most harmonious
the
clubhouse.
Orioles or the
yes,
Mets?
the Orioles.
Oh, okay.
We'll get to the Mets later, I promise.
We're getting the Mets, don't worry.
But the Orioles, let's put it this way. In a fractured Mets clubhouse, Pete Alonso was not the problem.
No, absolutely not.
And so he comes into the Orioles now as someone with a ton of credibility.
Right.
And one of my favorite numbers about Pete Alonso, 162. He has played every single game in the regular season in 2024 and 2025. Leadership and accountability and consistency, John, as we both know in this sport, they go hand in hand. Pete Alonso posts, and he now brings that accountability to the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, I mean, he's tough, and he's New York tested. We know he walked away from a rollover with his Jeep on his way to spring training from Tampa, going to Port St. Lucie without a scratch. This is a guy not only just posting 162 last year, and I don't know how many people know this. The birth of his first child late in the season. They're in the pennant race. They arranged it to do it after a night game.
Wow.
So he played the game, whatever that game was in September. Went to see the birth of his child, his first child. Not that it matters. All children are important.
That's
but
right.
It was his first. Just for the record, it was his first. Saw the birth. Played the next day, no days off. I mean, I'm working at some place where somebody took 3 months off for paternity leave, and I don't like to besmirch anyone. I'm not going to name names. He played the next day. He played that day. This is a guy who really is undervalued. Okay, let's get to some chats at me. You're absolutely right. I don't know whether that means you or me, but I think we're both right. We're going to go
I
with
agree.
that.
Thank you, by the way.
All right. This is a bad contract. I mean, it's not a bad contract if you're an Oriole fan. That's
no, and there's the statement that's been made, John, and you and I know this from covering the postseason and the offseason so many different times. If you are going to stay completely disciplined on a big free agent, you will never sign the big free agent. You have to stretch your idea of what you are comfortable doing. Obviously, the Orioles went just beyond where the Phillies went to get Schwarber. So certainly, John, I was paying attention to that.
Yeah.
I can do the math.
Well, these agents here are in competition.
They're a little competitive.
They wait, and I think we heard that Bellinger was going to wait to see Tucker. Now he's not going to beat Tucker, but I think there is something to that, and they look at what the other signings go for. They both got good deals. I don't think they're crazy deals. Cease was a big deal. That was a really big deal. These deals, I think, are in line with the predictions. I think I had 165 for Alonso. I had 140 for Schwarber. I don't see this.
They're fair. And by the way, John, I will say this. I am not convinced that Bellinger will sign after Tucker. I think it's possible that the Mets, and maybe this is a good time to get into the pivot of what's next for them.
Right.
I think it's entirely possible that the Mets' reaction, if they're going to have one, is Cody Bellinger. He fits them even better right now, John, because Bellinger, if the Mets sign him today, Bellinger can play first base for them.
Right. Bellinger can play first. He can play center if they need that. They're kind of saying Carson Benj has a good shot to be their center fielder. I kind of get that, although he's left-handed. Same thing with Bellinger. They're already a little too left-handed. They didn't seem that concerned about that, though. They were concerned about the run prevention.
Right. They had to send me in a righty bat.
Doesn't Diaz help with run prevention? I mean,
Diaz helps with run prevention.
Sure what's going on there? I can't imagine that anybody in the organization is that thrilled that he's gone to the Dodgers. That deal was not out of whack at all. That was actually below what I had predicted. Not that my predictions are always coming true. It was a record for a closer. I mean, he deserves it. He was fantastic. He was the best closer in the league. I can't believe they let him go. I mean, I could see on Alonso because they had that run prevention thing that they've been talking about. But to me, big right-handed bat, that's the guy they needed. To me, that's the guy they needed. Now, you get Bellinger. He's an outstanding defender at every position. Maybe they love that, but he's a left-handed. He's another ex-Yankee. That's
right.
The fans, they love their guys. Alonso is a fan favorite. Does that not matter? It feels like it's all about the metrics. Nothing else matters. And I mean, to me, the fans, without the fans, you have nothing. And the fans are not going to be happy. Even if Bellinger outproduces Alonso was their guy. He's the all-time home run champion with the Mets. Diaz was their guy. They had Timmy Trumpet playing. I don't even know what Mr. and Mrs. Met are going to do now. They're going to have to find something for these guys to do. They've been playing along on that, whatever that instrument that they're playing.
Right. Well, John,
it's sad. It's really sad if you're a Mets fan.
I'll say this, and you know this market very, very well, and I'll ask the question this way. Which player do Mets fans feel most connected to, at least before today? Pete Alonso or Juan Soto?
Oh, Pete Alonso.
There's your answer.
All right.
And at some point, yes, you've got to win ball games. This is a competitive sport. All these elements are important. But this is still show business, entertainment, and emotional connection. And Mets fans have been emotionally connected to Pete Alonso and Edwin Diaz for years. This is, I know I have just Mets friends in my life, not work colleagues, just friends, who are right now bereft about this news. They are despondent over these two signings, and they're asking me, what's next? And my answer is it's a good question, because unless the names are Cody Bellinger or Ranger Suarez, who you would at least be signing away from your division rival, that would give Mets fans some measure of satisfaction. But it's still difficult to see them feeling satisfied at the end of the day.
If they come up with Scooble somehow and sign him to an extension, then Mets fans will say, okay, we got
that's
something
acceptable.
We can hang on. Certainly not. I like Ranger Suarez. I like Bellinger. These are very good players. They're not Pete Alonso to the Met fan.
Yes.
Talk to the Met fan.
Yes.
I think this is an issue. The other issue is, what about the clubhouse? Are they interested in improving the clubhouse? Now, my understanding is some Mets people have talked to other agents out there and saying they want to improve the clubhouse. They're telling us their clubhouse was fine, and to me, it looks like they don't really. They're telling us the truth, which I can't even believe that they're telling us the truth instead of the other agents. And I don't think it seems like it matters to them what the clubhouse is, because you lose Nimmo and Diaz. They're two out of the four most upbeat
and Alonso's
guys.
really important. He's a very positive guy.
Alonso's fine in the clubhouse, but the most positive guys in that clubhouse, and I'm there a lot, are Marte, who's gone or as a free agent,
Nimmo, and Sugar,
Diaz, and Lindor. And right now you've only got Lindor left. You've also got the issue of Lindor and Soto not speaking to each other very much. They're going to say, oh, it's no big deal. They're going to say that anyway. I don't know if that, you have to say it's no big deal if you're the Mets or anybody there, but we see it every day. And they need to, I think they need to work on the clubhouse, and bringing in Devin Williams to replace Sugar, a guy called Sugar. Devin Williams' nickname is not Sugar. Not Sugar. He is not. There's nothing sweet about him. He's fine. He's not going to disrupt anything. He's not a bad guy. He's just a little kind of morose. I mean, that's the way it flies for me anyway. And they had him in Milwaukee, so I think they're telling us the truth, and they don't care about the truth.
And John, to your point, a couple things. Number one, I'm not in the Mets clubhouse as often as you are, but when I was in there in 2025, the word that I would use is tense. It felt like a tense room.
Yeah.
It felt
didn't start
uneasy.
out that way, but
right.
It certainly was at the end.
It felt
You're
tense.
Right. It was at the end. All right, how did David Stearns allow a player like Pete Alonso to walk away? My answer is short. I don't think he was that interested in keeping him.
I think you're right, John.
Because that contract is bad. We both disagree with that. We're already on that. 5 years is not a bad contract at 31. You know what? Schwarber's 2 years older and got 5 years. Pete does play a position. You may say he's below average defensively. He does provide that. I don't think there's any guarantee who's going to age well, who's not going to age well. I think that is hard to predict. I personally think Diaz will age well, and I've had baseball people tell me that Diaz is going to age well. And we've seen closers, go out there at age 38, 40. Kenley Jansen's still going. Aroldis Chapman's still going. I'm not sure why every team kind of agreed it's a 3-year deal and no more than that. I don't get that, but good for the Dodgers, And by the way, signing all these guys, that only helps them sign more guys.
That's very true.
People want to come to the team.
And then on the other side, John, this is what I'm seeing with the Mets, and this unfortunately will not exactly appease our Mets friends who are watching right now. There's nothing we can say today that will make you feel any better. But what I will say as a reality check, and I think, John, your experience would probably line up with this, is that when you are in a situation where your fan base is demanding a major move in response to moves that did not go your way, the Mets are not exactly operating from a position of strength. Other GMs know that they are somewhat boxed in. The other agents know they're somewhat boxed in. This is not an environment in which you're going to make a very safe, easy, painless move. You probably now have to go further outside your comfort zone because the industry now knows that you are under duress.
Right. I mean, you're going to have to overpay, too.
Correct.
You're so intent on getting a good, quote-unquote, good deal, getting Diaz for $3 million or $5 million less. When you spent $765 million on a player last year, you couldn't give 10% of that to a guy who's been a great and loyal Met. I think,
John, I think you touched on it, that the one response they could make that would appease the fans is if they trade for Scooble and extend him.
I don't know if it would appease them because I'm a New Yorker, but I would say it would distract them.
A distraction.
Distracted.
A successful distraction.
Exactly.